Hi, so I'm back with our favorite topic, and we've covered quite a bit on this journey. We've more or less just totally gone delved into emotional intelligence and listed various scenarios where where we find ourselves having to employ emotional intelligence. And when I started this journey, I did mention that we are going to try and be as holistic as possible. Holistic in the sense that emotional intelligence is a topic that, or it's a skill that we need not that is not just for us as adults because of our interactions, but it's a key skill for our children as well, and for everybody really that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. And so today I want to talk briefly about parenting with emotional intelligence, or using our emotional intelligence skills for our day-to-day parenting, and then also passing on those emotional intelligence skills to our children, because our children do need to be emotionally intelligent. Why do I think our children need to be emotionally intelligent? For the very same reasons that I gave, that we as adults and as people who interact with others on a day-to-day basis, for the exact same reasons, our children they live in a world where and they are daily exposed to other people, so they need to improve their interactions. We find that the world, being the world that we are living in right now, being so demanding, that our children feel the demand as well from a very tender age, from when they start interacting with people, when they start interacting with other children, when you find themselves crying, coming home crying because a best friend did not talk to them that day, when you find them so down because a teacher talked to them in a manner that they were not too happy, or when you find them down because they felt somebody bullied them in class or out there. And so emotional intelligence it's a skill that is extremely important in the way our children interact with their environment as well. Same way that it is important for us, it is important for our children as well. And then it also helps them in building resilience when they know that when they know, yes, they experience certain emotions, but this is how they can deal with these emotions, and that when they are angry, they don't have to project that anger. For instance, when you're talking to a child and you've had a child probably tell somebody, I hate you, and it's important that you sit down that child and you tell them there is a different way of expressing that emotion, which is hate, that they're feeling at that point. That yes, you're probably feeling a lot of hate towards this person. Of course, it's important that as a parent you try and teach your child to also understand the triggers. It's a whole long process, but it's really important for us as parents, especially because of the society that we find ourselves faced with today. And so if a child feels a certain level of hate, as opposed to letting that sleep, because we have different kinds of parenting nowadays, and when it comes to emotions, we also have parents who prefer to dismiss. Now, you can either be a dismissive parent or a parent that coaches on emotional intelligence. I'd rather be the parent that coaches on emotional intelligence, because dismissing then is you dismiss your own emotions and you dismiss the emotions of your child. And basically what you're telling your child indirectly is, what, deal with the world. Yeah. Which technically is what is supposed to happen. However, there's a way that is right when you're dealing with the world, and that is what we need to develop in our children. So yeah, there is the resilience. So instead of a child feeling hatred, you can tell them, yes, you're feeling a lot of hate right now, a lot of dislike for this person. But the appropriate thing to say to do is to say, I'm really upset, I'm not too happy right now, and then now work on it from that perspective. So it's also in the little ways on how we teach our children to express themselves. So when they are expressing themselves, they know it. Same way we teach them those little magic words: thank you, I'm sorry, excuse me. They're the same way. When you're expressing your feelings, it's important for a child to know that there's a right way to express your feelings. There's a right way to describe your feelings. Feel them and then describe them appropriately, and let them also feel free to come and talk to you when they need to talk to you. Yeah. So they need to build resilience, like I said. And then a child who masters emotional intelligence is also, this is a child who's very adaptive. They become very adaptive to their surroundings and to the people around them. Because if a child, sometimes we change children's schools without even thinking twice about what they feel or how they would interact with the new people that they're going to be faced with. We find ourselves always saying that children adapt very easily, but sometimes I beg to differ with that, because I think it's easier sometimes. Yes, adults we are more in control of our feelings, our reactions. Children sometimes need a lot of navigating to get to that point where they can't even express themselves as correctly as they would want to, and that's why sometimes we tend to think that they adapt. Yes, they adapt, but they also need some guidance. So like when you decide to change a child's school, and this is a child who is not emotionally intelligent or emotionally mature or emotionally aware, you find that you eventually have a child who is struggling to deal with settling down in their new school, and in the process, you might find yourself breeding a highly resentful child. So when a child is emotionally intelligent, they are also highly adaptive. So they are resilient, they are highly adaptive, and then they just, you find such children also are able to have healthy relationships, because they are more aware of what they're feeling. They also learn to be aware of what the next person is feeling, and they also learn to be more sensitive. Now, I always feel the need to say this, that being emotionally intelligent is not a mark of being irrational. In the same way, parenting with emotional intelligence does not mean that you become irrational or unreasonable in the way you manage your children, or the way you manage situations and emotions. It's not about being overly sensitive. It's about being very aware of the emotions that you're dealing with, of your emotions as a parent at that point, and your child's emotions, and then now managing those appropriately. So as we go through the various steps, or rather the various ways that we can help ourselves in managing and in bringing up emotionally intelligent children, and in parenting with emotional intelligence, then we will discover that children who are emotionally intelligent also excel in their performance. Yeah, they also are able to confidently express themselves, and they are able to confidently face the world. I remember when my son started school, and that's the other thing. I think that's the other thing I would want to discuss at some point. having 3 girls and then a boy, sometimes it might be, you think that, we have this thing that boys are supposed to be hardy, and boys are supposed to be, and men, when it comes to emotions, boys are not supposed to be too emotional. We even believe that, the mark of a man is in being tough. We'll look at all that later. However, when my son was starting school, I think that was one of the most difficult phases of my life in parenting, because I realized with the girls it was easier, but with my son, for starters, he landed there and he just didn't like school. And every morning was a challenge. Every morning was, and I just, in as much as yes, at that point I was going through some studies, and I was trying to understand, why is this boy behaving the way he's behaving. It took me a while to, finally realize that we assume that children will cope, and we assume that when it's time for them to go to school, they must adapt, which is not a bad thing. But what is so wrong with us understanding as well that these children have there's a settling journey, and in some children it takes longer than in others. And so at that point, I actually had now to start building on his emotional intelligence. And actually, that is when I started dealing with emotional intelligence on a highly, highly personal level, because I realized I needed to work on my child's emotions and stability and confidence before he just hated, before he got to a point where he just hated school. And so we cannot, we cannot downplay the importance of emotional intelligence in our children, in our sons, in our daughters. And that's why I think it's really, really important that we sort of just train them to navigate this very important aspect of their lives. Now, very quickly, some of the tips that we can use when we are training or rather when we are using emotional intelligence in parenting. For starters, use your emotions. Look at your emotions. Look at sometimes we get overwhelmed as parents because at that point where you're trying to employ emotional intelligence, you're probably dealing with your own emotions, your child's emotions, and so there's a tendency to get overwhelmed, and it happens. And so instead of looking at your emotions that time or your child's emotions as the enemy or something that you just need to react to, and by now we all understand, if we've gone through these sessions, you understand what it means to react appropriately, what it means to respond appropriately. And so at that point, just look at your emotions, look at your child's emotions as data, or what we call self-awareness or awareness at that point, because then at that point you're dealing with your emotions and your child's emotions. And look at them like, okay, fine, so this is what my child is feeling, this is what I'm feeling. This is interesting, so how do I go about it? So because you've sort of attached a curiosity to what you both are feeling, then you want now to delve deeper into that particular feeling and try to understand it for both you and your child. And of course, that calls for you not to be very fast in the way that you react or the way that you respond to those emotions. If a child comes to you and they are depressed or they are down or they are frustrated or they are just plain angry, at that point, when you look at them, when you're emotionally intelligent, you know that you immediately capture that this is what we are both going through. You're also probably frustrated, by seeing your child frustrated, and you immediately recognize this is what we are both going through, and then now you start walking through. As you talk to your child, you're also walking yourself through managing that process. And then remember that you have choices in life. I mean, it's about the choices we make. It's about so sometimes we think it's very easy to sit and think, this is how my child is. This is how they are. You know, sometimes it even gets bad to the point where we're thinking it's an inborn trait. They were born to be angry. Their fathers and their grandfathers, were angry people. They were, we are told, my tribe, we are told that we've been labeled that we get really angry and all that. But as opposed to, now profiling, know that you have the choice to make to help your child overcome that. When it's anger, if you allow yourself to, to go through that choice, that yes, we can actually make this better. We have a choice not to, put ourselves down to the profiling. Then you can walk your child through that as well. And then number 3, also think about the fact that you are bringing up a child who is meant to survive the society. And so handle parenting with a purpose. It's really important that you handle parenting with a purpose. Know that we always joke around and know that you're bringing up somebody's husband, you're bringing up somebody's wife, you're bringing up a career person, you're bringing up a person who needs to fit into society. So take the parenting journey with, take it as a journey that you need to fulfill with plenty of purpose. And as you do that, you will realize that you want to walk the emotional journey with your child in order to bring them up to be the right kind of people for the society, and in order to also bring them up to manage their feelings when they are faced by when they're in society, when they're faced by societal issues, and also just be able to walk through their own emotions and still maintain a sober mind and some form of calm and alleviate stress as much as possible. And it is, at the end of the day, it really is our responsibility to walk our children that journey. So yeah, this has been much longer than I expected, but I'm glad I did this. So let's meet on the next episode as we slowly now start breaking down aspects of parenting with emotional intelligence. And so you have yourselves a lovely day. Thank you.